There comes a moment in every person's life when they begin to sense a quiet, invisible shift. It is not announced with fanfare. No trumpets sound. But it is there, unmistakable to the one who has begun the journey. It is the unmistakable signal that you are becoming unstoppable. Not in the loud, arrogant way the world often celebrates, but in the silent, disciplined, and steady unfolding of your true potential. How do you know when this shift begins? You know because your priorities change. You find yourself waking up not to an alarm clock, but to a purpose. You no longer chase distractions. You no longer need to be reminded of your goals. They live inside you now, etched not just in your memory, but in your very identity. You stop measuring your progress by the applause of others. Instead, you begin measuring it by the quiet victories, waking up early when you'd rather sleep, showing up when no one is watching, keeping your word to yourself. These are not things the world always notices, but they are the bricks that build an unstoppable foundation. You begin to feel a growing discomfort with mediocrity. Where you once tolerated excuses, now you reject them outright. Where you once allowed fear to delay you, now you walk into the unknown, not without hesitation, but with a calm resolve that grows stronger every day. The doubts still come, but they no longer control your decisions. You hear them, you acknowledge them, but then you move forward anyway. You begin to notice that your energies shift. You are no longer interested in petty arguments, shallow conversations, or proving yourself to people who never took the time to understand you. You begin to guard your energy, not with arrogance, but with wisdom. You understand that what you give your attention to grows. And so you invest that attention into the person you are becoming. You no longer ask, "What will they think?" You ask, "What kind of man must I become?" That shift is monumental, because when you begin to shape your life around your vision rather than your fears, you unlock a version of yourself that few ever meet. This is not about pretending to be perfect. It's about refusing to stay small. You know you're becoming unstoppable when discipline begins to replace emotion. When you feel tired, you still show up. When you feel discouraged, you still move forward. You understand that the mind is a servant to habit, and you begin training it like a craftsman sharpens his tool. Slowly, precisely, and with great care. And something else happens, something profound. You begin to feel peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from everything going right, but the peace that comes from knowing you are on the right path. The storms may still come, but you no longer panic. You anchor yourself not in circumstances, but in principles. You begin to realize that true power is quiet. It does not scream. It does not beg. It simply moves forward, one day at a time, unmoved by distraction, untouched by doubt. You stop needing motivation because you've built a system. You stop seeking shortcuts because you understand the value of the process. You know that everything worthwhile must be earned, and so you stop fearing effort. In fact, you welcome it. You embrace the early mornings, the quiet nights, the long hours with no reward. Because deep down, you know the reward is not something you get. It's someone you become. You're becoming unstoppable when you stop breaking promises to yourself. When you say you will do something, and you do it because it's easy, not because you're in the mood, but because that's who you are now. Your identity has shifted. You are no longer a man hoping for change. You are a man committed to transformation. And in this commitment, you begin to find clarity. You begin to see that life is not about speed, but direction. Not about noise, but meaning. Not about popularity, but purpose. You realize that your life does not need to impress, it needs to matter. And that difference, though subtle, changes everything. You begin to let go of the need to be understood. You no longer waste energy trying to convince people who are not ready to hear. You simply live your life as a quiet example. You become the man who speaks less and does more. The man who no longer explains, he just becomes. You know you're becoming unstoppable when failure no longer discourages you. It informs you. You take the lesson and move forward. You no longer take things personally. You no longer crumble when plans fall apart. You bend, but you do not break, because you've learned something that few understand. Setbacks are not punishments. They are preparation. And so you walk with calm. You walk with confidence. You walk with the knowing that every step you take, however small, is shaping your destiny. Others may not see it, they may not understand it, but you know, and that knowing is You begin to understand that consistency is greater than intensity, that showing up every single day, even with small steps, will take you farther than bursts of unsustainable effort. You no longer wait for the perfect mood or ideal conditions. You begin, you move, and you stay in motion. Because you know that motion, not motivation, builds momentum. There is a power in you that the world cannot see. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, but it shows itself in your daily decisions, in your refusal to quit, in your commitment to excellence, even when no one is watching. That is the mark of the unstoppable. They do what is right, not what is easy. They act from vision, not from impulse. You no longer chase a feeling. You follow a philosophy, a set of principles, a code. And like a sailor who trusts the compass in the dark, you stay the course even when the winds howl and the waves rise. You've seen enough storms now to know they don't last. But if you remain centered, you do. And as you walk this path, you begin to feel lighter. Not because life becomes easier, but because you've stopped carrying the weight of things that no longer serve you. You let go of needing to be liked. You let go of needing to prove yourself. You let go of guilt from your past and fear about your future. You carry only what's essential: your purpose, your faith, your discipline. The rest you release. You stop needing permission. You stop needing approval. You realize that the only validation that matters is the one that comes from within, from knowing that you are doing the best you can, with what you have, where you are. That kind of validation is quiet, but it's unshakable. You become more patient, more grounded. You stop rushing. You stop chasing quick wins. You trust the process. You trust yourself, because you now understand that timing is not always in your hands, but preparation. And you will not be caught unready when the door opens. You are building something within that no man, no failure, no rejection can take from you. People may start to notice the change. They may say you're different. And you are. Because you've stopped living for the weekend. You've stopped waiting for the next break, the next escape. You are no longer running from your life. You are building it, day by day, brick by brick, decision by decision. You wake up and give thanks, not just for what you have, but for the opportunity to grow, to learn, to become. You stop seeing problems and start seeing patterns. You stop complaining and start creating, and that shift, that rare mental transformation, is the foundation of the unstoppable life. You begin to operate with intention, no wasted movement, no random efforts. You know what you're doing and why. Your time becomes sacred. Your environment becomes clean. Your focus becomes razor sharp. And in a world that is constantly distracted, this kind of clarity is revolutionary. You no longer take things personally. You no longer get thrown off by noise or gossip or doubt. You understand that the world will always have opinions, but none of them shape your reality unless you give them permission. And you no longer give that permission. You have reclaimed your mind, and with it, your power. You begin to treat your mind like a fortress. You are careful about what you let in. You are intentional with your inputs, what you watch, what you read, who you listen to, because you know that your thoughts become beliefs, and beliefs shape your action, and your actions shape your future. You protect your mind, because you know it is the birthplace of your destiny. You start to notice the distance between yourself and who you used to be. The things that once tempted you now bore you. The things that once scared you no longer faze you. You walk into the fire not because you are fearless, but because your purpose is greater than your fear. There's a quiet intensity in your eyes now, a stillness, a certainty. You no longer flinch. You no longer rush. You simply act with grace, with force, with unwavering consistency. And in that calm execution lies a power that most never tap into. The world tries to distract you, to provoke you, to pull you into conflict. But you stay centered. You do not react, you respond. You do not argue, you improve. You do not seek revenge. You seek results. That is what makes you different. That is what makes you unstoppable. You know you're becoming unstoppable when you're no longer seduced by comfort. You know that the easy path leads to regret, while the hard path leads to mastery. And so you choose the hard path, not because you enjoy the struggle, but because you respect the reward. You are no longer looking for what is convenient. You are looking for what is true. And what is true is this: every man must choose between growth and stagnation, between creation and consumption, between legacy and mediocrity. And you, by your actions, by your thoughts, by your discipline, you are choosing legacy. There comes a time when you stop seeking motivation and start becoming the source of it. You no longer look outward to be inspired because you've become deeply connected to your own mission. And that mission pulls you. It draws you forward like gravity. You don't need someone to light a fire beneath you because the fire is already burning inside. You know you're becoming unstoppable when your thoughts begin to shift from "can I" to "how will I?" You no longer doubt your ability. You start engineering your future. You wake up and you plan with precision. You execute with conviction, and you reflect with honesty. That is the mindset of a man who is no longer hoping things change, but making sure they do. You've stopped negotiating with weakness. You don't reason with laziness, and you don't argue with excuses. You simply rise and move and finish. Because you've learned that your feelings are not facts. You've learned that your discipline is stronger than your mood. And you've come to respect the incredible strength of showing up, even when you don't feel like it. You know you're becoming unstoppable when silence becomes your strength. You no longer need to announce your plans. You no longer seek to convince others. You've understood that power moves quietly. Real progress is made in the dark when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when there are no trophies, no cameras, no recognition, and yet you still show up. You still deliver, because your standard is internal. It's not for it's for real. You've stopped trying to fit in, because you weren't born to blend. You were built to stand apart, not in arrogance, not in rebellion, but in purpose, in discipline, in quiet excellence. The world may not understand it. They may not celebrate it. But you don't need celebration. You need results, and those come from staying the course when others veer off. You no longer chase what is popular. You pursue what is meaningful. You no longer crave what is easy. You crave what is earned. And every day that you remain loyal to this path, you grow more dangerous, not to others, but to your limitations. You are no longer tolerating the boundaries that once defined you. You are stretching, expanding, becoming. There is a kind of gravity that begins to form around you. People notice, even if they don't say it. They sense the quiet certainty in your movements, the calm resolve in your eyes. You no longer overreact. You observe. You no longer gossip. You build. You no longer waste time. You treasure it, and in doing so, you become the rarest kind of man, the kind who is both humble and powerful. You know you're becoming unstoppable when your standards rise without apology. You no longer entertain distractions. You no longer settle for halfway. You no longer say yes to what drains you. You protect your time, your energy, your focus. not out of ego, but out of clarity, because you now understand that every hour wasted is a step stolen from your future. You've come to realize that greatness isn't a moment. It's a method. It's not about shining when it's easy. It's about grinding when it's hard. It's about doing the work, day after day, year after year, even when the results aren't visible, because you trust the process. You trust the law, that what you sow you shall reap it. What you build in silence will one day echo in eternity. You know you're becoming unstoppable when the storm no longer rattles you. In fact, you welcome it, because you've been there before. You've walked through fire, and you've come out refined. You've faced losses, and they taught you how to win. You've been broken, and you learned how to rebuild. And now you carry a strength that cannot be seen, but it can be felt. You have fewer words now, but more weight. You don't make promises. You make moves. You don't react to critics. You let results speak. And as you climb, you don't forget where you came from, but you no longer let it define you. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not your failures. You are your decisions. And your decision is to rise. You rise because there is more in you. More vision, more talent, more endurance. You haven't even touched your ceiling. And the man you are today is only the foundation for the man you are becoming. That thought alone should light a fire in your soul, because you know now it's not about what you've done, it's about what you're building. You've realized that clarity is a superpower, and now you seek it constantly. You no longer allow chaos to enter your mind. You no longer let confusion guide your steps. You ask better questions. You seek better answers. And you stay rooted in the truth that you and you alone are responsible for your future. That understanding, that ownership is the final sign. The sign that you have stopped waiting for rescue. You've stopped waiting for permission. You've stopped waiting for the right time. And you've begun. You've begun to craft, to climb, to commit. You've begun to master your days, your thoughts, your habits, and in mastering those, you are mastering your life.
The man who becomes unstoppable is not without doubt. He is simply not ruled by it. Doubt may visit, but it never stays. Fear may knock, but it finds no home. Because this man, this rare individual, has fortified himself from within. He knows that courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. And each day that he chooses action, the fear grows smaller, the confidence grows stronger, and the momentum becomes irreversible. There is a kind of silence that begins to live in his heart, a steady silence, not born of emptiness, but of strength. He no longer reacts to chaos, because he has learned to generate calm. He no longer absorbs the panic of others, because he has trained himself to become the anchor in every storm. And while others shout, while others flail, he breathes and he executes. This kind of control is not gifted. It is earned. It is carved out in the early mornings, when the world sleeps and you are already moving. It is forged in the late nights, when others are resting and you are still refining. The unstoppable man does not rise because of applause. He rises because of alignment. His values, his vision, and his actions now walk in lockstep. He no longer stumbles through life. He marches. He does not ask if it will be hard. He assumes that it will. He does not seek comfort. He seeks growth. He has come to understand that the man who avoids pain avoids power. And so rather than retreat from the challenge, he sharpens himself against it. Each trial is a tool, each setback a sharpening stone. And through them he is sculpted, not into who the world expects him to be, but into who he must become. And what does he become? He becomes trusted. He becomes grounded. He becomes the man people count on, not because he is loud,
but because he is consistent. You can set your watch to a man like this. His actions don't change with his emotions. His standards don't lower under pressure. And his word is as good as law. There is no ego in his confidence, because it was built through repetition, not fantasy, through practice, not pretense. He knows his worth, not because he read it in a book, but because he's proven it to himself day after day, mile after mile, decision after decision. And in that proof, he finds peace. Others may ask him how he does it, how he stays so focused, so balanced, so consistent. But the truth is not found in some secret. It is found in something simple. He has decided. That's all. He has made a decision, and that decision has become a lifestyle. That lifestyle has become a rhythm. That rhythm has become his identity. And once something becomes identity, it becomes inevitable. He no longer tells people who he is. He shows them, not with speeches but with footsteps, not with proclamations but with performance. And because he no longer needs to be seen, he becomes undeniable. He doesn't need the spotlight. In fact, he prefers the shadows, because in the shadows he works, he builds, he prepares. He knows the truth that most overlook, that all greatness is forged in quiet. You don't become unstoppable by shouting louder. You become unstoppable by mastering the silent, by doing the work when no one claps, by keeping your promise when no one checks, by holding the line when no one sees. That is where the real man is born. And because of this, the unstoppable man becomes harder to rattle. People may criticize him, but he's already heard worse from the voice inside, and he has silenced that voice with discipline. Life may delay him, but it cannot deny him, because he has detached his commitment from the calendar. He no longer asks, how long will it take? He asks, how far can I go? That shift is subtle, but seismic. He has stopped chasing what's temporary. He no longer sells himself for validation, likes, or short-lived applause. He is building something deeper, something generational, something timeless. And while others are playing games, he is planting roots. And the deeper those roots go, the taller he will rise, and rise he will. And so he builds. He builds his character before his empire, his integrity before his income, his foundation before his fortune, because he knows that speed, without direction, leads to destruction. He'd rather move slowly toward what is right than race blindly toward what is popular. And because of that, he gains what most men never do: freedom. Freedom from opinion, freedom from urgency, freedom from the trap of proving, chasing, reacting. Because now he creates, he designs, he leads, and in that leadership he gives others permission to rise as well. Make no mistake, this man still feels tired, he still feels tempted, he still feels tested, but none of those things define him. What defines him is how he responds. He responds with wisdom, with control, with presence. And presence, true presence, is the rarest kind of power. It cannot be faked. It cannot be rushed. It must be cultivated. And that cultivation is his daily devotion. So he wakes up, and he walks his path, not because someone is watching, not because he's being paid, but because he said he would. And in that integrity, unseen, uncelebrated, uncompromising, he becomes unstoppable. There is a calm that surrounds the man who is becoming unstoppable. It is not arrogance. It is not indifference. It is certainty, born not from outcomes but from effort. He does not need to know exactly how the story ends because he already knows who he is becoming. That alone is enough to keep him moving forward, no matter the obstacle. When others ask him why he works so hard, why he stays so focused, why he denies himself the ease that most embrace, he smiles, not out of superiority but out of understanding. He knows that most people are not ready to hear the real answer. Because the real answer is this: he refuses to live life on his knees. He refuses to hand his future over to chance. He refuses to be ordinary. He's not chasing a dream, he's fulfilling a responsibility. A responsibility to the potential he knows is within him. And that responsibility fuels him more than any applause ever could. He has trained his mind to respond, not react. Where others would lose control, he stays composed. Where others would lash out, he observes. He has mastered the pause between trigger and response, and in that space he finds power. He is no longer driven by emotion. Emotion may visit, but it does not lead. Vision leads. Purpose leads. And because he lives by purpose, he no longer gets distracted by things that don't serve it. He's not trying to win every battle. He's focused on winning the war. He's not looking for comfort in the moment. He's building freedom for a lifetime. And that long view changes everything. Because when you think in decades, you act differently today. He's not in a rush, but he's not wasting time. Every day has weight. Every hour has value. He no longer lets his life be stolen by mindless scrolling, endless excuses, or conversations that go nowhere. He doesn't need to be everywhere. He just needs to be where it counts. He now understands that reputation is what others think of you, but character is who you are when no one is watching. And it is that character he is building, brick by brick, choice by choice, quietly, unshakably. He is no longer attached to the highs or the lows. Success doesn't inflate him. Failure doesn't break him. He rides the waves without losing balance. Because his identity is not tied to what happens. It's tied to how he responds. When others panic, he plans. When others doubt, he doubles down. When others retreat, he recalibrates and continues. He has learned that the game of life is not about avoiding adversity. It's about becoming the kind of man who is forged by it. He embraces the struggle, not because he enjoys the pain, but because he understands what it produces. Strength, clarity, direction. He knows that fire refines gold, and so he walks into the heat, not to suffer, but to evolve. He's no longer seduced by noise. He's tuned his ear to signal, to truth, to what matters. And because of that, his mind is clear. His steps are firm. His outcomes may vary, but his standard never does. He doesn't chase quick wins anymore. He plays the long game. He plants seeds, knowing he may not see the harvest for years, but he plants anyway. He builds anyway. He shows up anyway, because he knows that the greatest things in life take time, and he has traded the cheap thrill of instant gratification for the deep satisfaction of earned success. He has stopped looking for easy. He's not even looking for hard. He's looking for true. And if the path is hard, so be it. If the path is lonely, so be it. If the path is slow, so be it. As long as the path is his, he has become unshakable, not because he has fewer problems, but because he has built a stronger foundation. He has learned to sit in stillness, to wait without anxiety, to act without drama, to move without noise. There is no panic in him, only preparation, no envy, only focus, no self-pity, only self-respect. Because he understands that life doesn't owe him anything, but his future, that is his to create, and create it he will, day by day, thought by thought, step by step, because he is no longer hoping for a better life. He is building it, with his discipline, with his decisions, with the unbreakable standard he now lives by. And as the world grows louder, he grows quieter. As the world gets faster, he becomes more deliberate. While others chase shortcuts, he stacks skills. While others look for hacks, he builds habits. While others consume, he creates. He has made peace with the pace of greatness. He knows that patience is not passive, it is powerful. And he knows that persistence is not always dramatic. It is often quiet, consistent, and unseen, but it is always effective. And now he is no longer intimidated by how far he has to go. He is inspired by how far he's already come, not because he's arrived, but because he knows the man he is today would make the man he once was proud. And that is enough fuel to keep going. You begin to notice that the man who is becoming unstoppable does not speak of discipline as if it were a burden. He speaks of it with reverence, because he has learned that discipline is the highest form of freedom. It is not about restriction, it is about direction. It is the difference between movement and progress, between noise and impact, between being busy and being effective. He has trained himself to do what needs to be done, whether he feels like it or not, because feelings change, but standards do not. He has built a life on principles, not mood, and because of that, he can be trusted with responsibility, with pressure, with leadership. He shows up the same, rain or shine, and in a world full of variables, he becomes a constant. The more he grows, the less he needs to prove. He no longer performs for others. He performs because it is who he is. The work is no longer just a means to an end, it is an expression of his identity. And so he pours himself into it, fully, silently, without distraction. He has learned to say no, not just to other people, but to his former self. The self that settled, the self that escaped through excuses, the self that lowered the bar. That man is gone now, replaced by someone forged in early mornings, long nights, and the unwavering decision to do better, be better. He is no longer haunted by the past because he has confronted it. He no longer fears the future because he is creating it. He stands in the present, not with anxiety but with intention. Each action is measured, each word is weighed, each step is aligned with where he's going, not where he's been. He has separated himself from the masses, not because he's better, but because he is clearer. He knows where he's going. He knows who he must become to get there. And so while others wonder, he walks with purpose. You know he's becoming unstoppable when his peace becomes a threat, when his composure disrupts chaos, when his presence makes excuses shrink, because he is no longer available for anything that violates his vision. His time is no longer up for grabs. His energy is no longer for sale. He is not driven by urgency. He is driven by clarity. There is a rhythm to his life. Now a quiet intensity, a sacred order. He knows that success is not something you chase, it is something you structure. So he builds systems. He sets standards. He makes the hard decisions once and then lives by them daily. He has learned to love the process, not because it's easy, but because it works. He no longer gets bored by repetition. He gets sharpened by it. He understands that mastery is hidden inside the mundane, that greatness is not made in the spotlight, but in the quiet repetition of invisible things. He's no longer distracted by what others have. He's focused on what he's building. Jealousy cannot take root in a man who is grateful. And he is deeply, dangerously grateful, not just for what he has, but for the opportunity to build more, to become more. He no longer prays for an easier path. He prays for stronger shoulders. And because of that, life begins to trust him with more responsibility, more challenge, more influence. Because life rewards those who have prepared, not those who have waited. He does not chase fame. He does not seek to be seen. He is far more concerned with being ready. And readiness is something you build in silence. It is something you rehearse in the dark. It is something you protect with your habits, your focus, and your refusal to quit. He knows that greatness requires sacrifice, but he also knows that the cost of regret is higher. So he pays the price now, without complaint. He trains while others talk. He builds while others scroll. He works while others wish. And in doing so, he separates. You know he's becoming unstoppable when comfort no longer has a voice in his decisions. When ease is no longer a temptation, he understands that the path to his potential is uphill, and he climbs anyway. Not because it's fun, not because it's fast, but because it's right. He does not break from pressure. He's been forged by it. He does not slow in the storm. He moves with precision, because he no longer needs everything to go his way. He just needs to keep going. He is no longer seduced by perfection. He is anchored in progress. He has become immune to comparison, not because he doesn't see others, but because he no longer sees them as competition. He is too focused on fulfilling his assignment, on honoring the responsibility of potential, on building something that outlasts applause. He no longer lives for someday. He lives for now. He does not delay the work. He does not delay the change. He does not wait for conditions to be perfect. He simply begins again and again until the thing is done. And when he falls, he does not stay down. He does not spiral. He does not retreat. He resets. He recalibrates, and he rises. Because failure is no longer a threat. It is a teacher. And each lesson makes him sharper, stronger, more certain. There is a stillness in his stride now, a steadiness in his voice, a fire in his eyes, not wild, but contained, not erratic, but exact. He is no longer chasing a version of himself he hopes to become. He is walking into the man he already knows he is.
And now, standing at the summit of what you once thought impossible, you don't feel pride in the way others imagine it. You feel something quieter, deeper, more sacred. You feel alignment. You feel the weight of your choices. You feel the white confirmation that every early morning, every late night, every lonely moment, every test of will was worth it. Because you didn't just build a career. You didn't just change your body. You didn't just reach your goals. You built you, the most powerful version of you, not the version that waited to be chosen, not the version that begged for approval, not the version that conformed to survive, but the version that decided to lead. You led yourself first, through the doubt, through the resistance, through the voices that told you it wasn't possible, through the days when your results didn't match your effort, through the quiet years when no one clapped and no one saw, and still you didn't stop. You were not chasing hype, you were chasing truth. You were not building for today. You were laying the foundation for everything that will come after. And because of that, you are now unshakable. Not because you are invincible, but because you are rooted. Rooted in purpose, rooted in clarity, rooted in a level of discipline that no one gave you, but that you forged with your own two hands. That's what separates you now. That's what makes you rare. That's why people feel the difference when you walk into the room. Not because of your clothes, not because of your title, but because of your presence. Because of the weight of a man who has done the inner work, who has walked through the fire, and who no longer wavers. You are no longer influenced by trends. You are driven by principles. You are no longer moved by fear. You are led by vision. And you no longer need a guarantee, because you are the guarantee. Not because you know what will happen, but because you know who you are. And this man that you've become, he doesn't speak in desperation. He doesn't chase applause. He doesn't explain his pace.
He moves with precision and lets the results speak. You are the storm now. You are the shift. You are the signal that something has changed. That in a world of shortcuts, someone still values the long way. That in a world of noise, someone still walks in silence. That in a world of comfort, someone still chooses the climb. You are that someone. You have become the man who keeps his word even when it's no longer exciting. The man who moves forward even when motivation runs dry. The man who listens more than he talks, delivers more than he promises, and expects more from himself than anyone else ever could. You are no longer distracted by what the world wants from you. You are focused on what your future requires from you. And that focus, that quiet obsession, is not something they will understand. But it doesn't matter anymore. Because you didn't build this life for applause. You built it to be free. And now you are free from excuses, free from anything that once convinced you to settle for less. You are not perfect. You never needed to be. You are consistent. You are clear. You are committed. And that, more than anything else, is what makes you unstoppable. So now, as the road continues, you don't ask, will I make it? You already know. Because it is no longer a matter of if. It is only a matter of when. You don't wonder how it will all come together. You trust that it will, because you will not stop until it does. And if the path changes, you adapt. If the pace slows, you breathe. If the obstacles rise, you rise higher. Because now, this is who you are. You are not trying to become unstoppable. You already are.